Hey friends, today we're going to talk about design choices that really annoy designers. Often, when people find out I'm an architect designer, they'll show me their work and ask for my opinion, like, look, I did it like this, tell me what you think. And I usually respond pretty tactfully saying, oh, this part is nice and this is a good solution. But what actually goes through a professional's mind when they look at someone else's work? And what details do they focus on? And if they spot mistakes, how do they fix or avoid them? Let's go. Using too many colors in an interior, like having reds, yellows, greens, whites, blacks, pinks, and everything all together. Professional designers actually use a simple rule. You have white and black, plus you can choose 3 additional colors that go well together. Colors are chosen based on the color wheel, usually as complementary opposites. One color opposes another, so you work with those 3 colors. But how can you make an interior look dynamic and varied? You can use different shades of these colors, plus mix in different textures like stone textures, ribbed surfaces, or even some natural stone accents. If you choose a gray color, you can go for various shades of gray. So friends, don't try to cram too many colors into your interior. It usually makes it look cheap and chaotic. And on a similar note, let's talk about using a lot of wood in interiors. Wood is typically considered as one color. If you're not a professional designer, I wouldn't recommend mixing 2 different wood tones. A professional designer can blend light and dark wood tones in a way that looks beautiful within the same space. Try to use these colors throughout the other rooms, so as you move from one space to another, they visually connect. This way, your entire home feels cohesive. Everything all at once in one place. And do you know why this happens? When someone goes shopping, sees a cool sofa and buys it, then finds another item and buys that too, then spots some nice tiles and grabs those as well, without considering beforehand how everything will come together. This leads to chaotic purchases and random choices. Often, there's also a mix of clashing styles, like when one partner wants one style and the other wants something different, and they just can't agree. This creates an imbalance. So how do you fix it? It's actually pretty simple. You need to start by thinking about what you want to achieve. How do the professionals do it? They first plan out what needs to be done and then execute it. And during the implementation, they don't change anything from what was planned. That's how you get a good result. Budget minimalism. This is when, someone shows you a picture saying, look, I did minimalism, but in reality, it's just an empty room lacking furniture. Friends, minimalism isn't just about emptiness with nothing in the room. Minimalism is actually an expensive style because it relies on very precise proportions, especially in the details, like the legs of the furniture. Usually, it involves high-quality branded furniture from premium manufacturers. Typically, expensive finishes are used, not just a plain painted wall, but textures in a soft gray shade or special integrated plasters. Generally, minimalism ends up costing much more than other styles to look truly impressive, high-quality, and stylish. It requires a substantial budget. For example, various shadow profiles or small niches, these are complex structures that increase project costs. So if you want to create a minimalist style and save money, unfortunately that won't work. It's better to choose other styles like Scandinavian, which can generally be done much more affordably. Perfectionism is in the details, and as professionals, we usually pay close attention to them. For instance, you walk into a bathroom and see a small, unattractive cut tile on one side. How do you avoid this? Friends, it's really simple. Just lay the tiles from the center instead of from one edge, as the builders might prefer. This way, you'll end up with 2 balanced cuts on each side. The same goes for small seams where things don't quite line up. For example, the alignment between the upper and lower cabinet doors, the door itself, and another separation. Everything is at different heights. It's best when everything is at the same height, like the cabinet separation aligning with the panel on the wall. This wall panel alignment also lines up with the door and all other elements, continuing seamlessly into the kitchen, and everything is at the same height. Also, sometimes light switches are installed at different heights and they don't align with the outlets below. What's the right way to do it? When installing switches, place them at the same height throughout the home. For example, 6 inches from the corner. If you're placing switches and outlets, try to align the switches above with the outlets below on the same line. Generally, switches aren't only placed by the corner, but also sometimes centered on the partition wall. The same principle applies to electrical panels. Electrical panels should often be hidden, like in closets, because you enter a space and everything looks great, but then there's this plastic panel on the wall. It's not very attractive. You can hide it in a closet, behind a picture, or within a panel. Continuing with this topic, when two materials meet improperly, what does that mean? It means when they're joined on the same plane. As architects and designers, we usually try to separate materials like wood and decorative plaster or a wood panel on different planes by adding a small step between them. So, you can also use this simple rule. When using a material, build out the wall by about 1 to 2 inches. This creates a small step effect. It looks much better than having everything on the same plane. Now, let's smoothly move on to the next point. When you enter a space and the furniture isn't aligned on any axis, it feels chaotic. Furniture is best arranged when aligned on a central axis. Place a coffee table in front of the TV, align the sofa across from the coffee table, and then align the bar counter or dining table with the same axis, all centering towards the kitchen. In other words, there's a certain logic to it. A great approach is to have these axes continue, not just within one room, but also flow into the next room. When you subconsciously move from one room to another, you pick up on this continuity. The next point is mismatched budgets and expectations. Let me tell you a story. Someone starts their renovation by buying an expensive sofa and ordering a high-end kitchen, but then they don't have enough money left for plumbing. You walk into this room and there's this pricey sofa, but then the walls have a very cheap finish or the plumbing is the least expensive option. And the whole impression of the interior is terribly ruined. Why does this happen? It's due to poor budget allocation. Friends, let me offer you another gift. You can download our budget file, which includes categories and examples. Just plug in your own examples and add the price for each item. This way, you'll get an approximate budget estimate. If this is relevant for you, message me directly on Instagram and follow my account. I'll send you a budget example file. By the way, I'd be very interested to see which rooms are a priority for you. So feel free to comment and share your thoughts on which room is most important for you and why. Let's move on. The next point is poor quality renovations. Now, I want to share a personal story. I've done 3 renovations in my life, all for my own spaces. The first renovation I did was with very skilled builders, but for my second renovation, I decided to cut costs. I thought, I'm an architect, a designer. I can supervise any builders, so I chose cheaper ones. And that was a big mistake. The mistake was that they did poor quality work. I had to ask them for numerous redos. So, friends, when a professional enters a space, they pay attention to every detail, every minor thing. When I visit a space, I check the tile joints. I look to see if the tiles are cut at a 45-degree angle and how evenly they're placed. I check the joints between the floor and the wall. I look at the angles, and I also examine the quality of the built-in furniture. A professional notices all these small details. On this note, I recently made a video about mistakes in the renovations of my 3 apartments. Feel free to check it out if you're interested. The next topic, which we've also filmed a separate video on, is visual clutter. It's about not planning out the space where items will be stored, where workout equipment or drying racks will go, or how to quickly access essentials. When these things aren't considered, clutter builds up and ends up lying around on tables. There's nothing worse than walking into a stylish, modern interior only to see random items, clutter, children's toys scattered everywhere, and just a general mess. This really disrupts the aesthetic of any interior. So to eliminate visual clutter, plan for organization, design storage solutions that provide both open access but hidden from sight, and ensure you have plenty of closed storage options. For those interested in diving deeper into this topic, we have a separate video on visual clutter. To make sure you don't miss it, subscribe to our channel. The next point is decor. Typically, every interior needs decor after a designer renovation, and it loses a lot visually if you don't add details like artwork, vases, books, and figurines. After my renovation and design project by my company, I separately hired a decorator to pick out paintings, vases, and such to make everything look like a magazine cover. Here, I'll show you a picture of how it looks with decor versus without it. It's the same apartment, but to make yours look beautiful and cozy, use a decorator's services. The next point that irritates designers is the failure to utilize viewpoints. Before arranging your furniture, consider the best viewpoints in your space and use those areas to place your dining table, for instance, or a workspace where you can enjoy the view while working. Friends, I recently released a video on my channel where I shared some fantastic solutions from 3 of my renovations that I loved, those solutions that brought me joy and that I highly recommend to everyone. If you're interested, I'll leave a link to that video right here. Come check it out. What else do professionals pay attention to? Well, of course, they pay attention to furniture sizes when the furniture doesn't match the dimensions of the space. For example, a very small sofa in a large room or a tiny coffee table. I've talked a lot about these solutions before. I won't go into more detail, but furniture sizes should correspond to the room. The size of the rug should match the seating arrangement. It should slightly extend under the sofa and chairs. The coffee table should be proportionate to the seating area. Next, professionals pay attention to clichés. For example, you know those tables made from tree stumps with loft-style legs? This is a solution that has already worn out its welcome. A few years ago, everyone wanted a loft-style interior, and in every apartment, in every home, they tried to create a brick wall. But not a real brick wall. They made this wall with brick-patterned tiles. It looks fake, especially at the seams. I actually have nothing against loft styles when there's a real concrete or brick wall, and it simply remains in its natural form. But when they try to create something just because it's trendy and it doesn't actually exist, just making an imitation of concrete or imitating brickwork looks very unattractive. Try to get rid of such clichés. Think about what clichés exist today, and you can also write in the comments what you think are the current clichés. So friends, I hope you enjoyed this video. Subscribe to our channel, and until next time, bye-bye.